A couple of weeks ago, in the Reader, I read an article about several concerned citizens who called the alderman, who called hydrate, in an attempt to get what they felt was a racist, a classist, and a sexist performance canceled, right? And that was acknowledged by hydrate's cancellation of the performance of Shirley Liquors. So, with that being said, and then also given the recent events and the history of violence in this neighborhood, this community, it's no coincidence that continually it involves youth of color. As well, it's no coincidence that currently in American prisons, there are more black people than there were slaves during slavery. Right? It's no coincidence. So my point is clearly there are racial divides, right? There are racial divides in this room, there are racial divides in this community, and there are racial divides in this country. So my question is, what is CPD doing to examine the role of race in this violence? How does the community plan to make this area more racially diverse? And precisely how are Boystown and its residents welcoming diversity? Thank you.
We keep our comments to 2 minutes in order to keep this moving along, okay? Thank you.
My name is Renee Weiss. I have been coming down to the street for 17 years. I'm a young 67. I am here in the place of 5 of my gay boyfriends who work nights and asked me to come because they knew I'd open my mouth. I have a suggestion. I can appreciate the fiscal restrictions. If the city cannot afford any more officers, I understand. But if there are at least 3 officers on the night shift, so to speak, that could be bicycling up and down the street, not together. One going one way, one going the other way, and continuing to do that. Some of this stuff wouldn't happen only because there is a uniformed police person with a gun. Now, if the bikes, people on the bicycles aren't available, I know I've seen the 3-wheeler bikes during the parade, because just pedaling back and forth, that's not easy, especially in the heat. So I say, if the night men could be, and walking is to help people texting, on bicycles, on those 3-wheelers, just being there. I'm not saying they can stop everything. Who can? Because the alarms of the poles might be too expensive, and I can appreciate that. But the bicycles you already have, and the 3-wheelers you already have, and you have already 3 guys on nights. Thank you very much.
Hi everyone, my name is Kevin O'Brien. Commander, when referring to the stabbing the other night, you stated that it should be noted that this is the only recorded incident in this community in recent weeks when a group of individuals has been involved in the attack. Let's say in recent weeks goes back to June 1st, when several people robbed and maced a woman in the 700 block of West Saltine, or on the same day when 2 people maced and robbed a woman in the 3600 block of Pine Grove. In recent weeks would most certainly include the incident on June 6th, when 2 men maced and attacked a man at Belmont Park, or the incident reported when 3 men robbed a man right by a de novo center. In recent weeks would also include the reported incident of 5 to 6 men beating another man near the intersection of Halston and Roscoe on June 14th. And how about the mob of approximately 20 males who assaulted and robbed a man at Halston, Belmont on June 9th? Commander, would you consider that a reported incident in this community where a group of individuals was involved in the attack? Why are you telling the media that this is the only incident in recent weeks where someone gets attacked by a group? Alderman Tunney, reporter Alex Perez from NBC, who's standing right over there, stated today on the Take Back Voice webpage on Facebook that he specifically asked you a two-part question. The question was, is this an isolated incident, and do you believe this incident is connected related to the other stabbings? He states that you responded by telling him that as far as you knew, this was an isolated incident, and that there is no reason to believe the stabbings are connected in any way. On your website, Alderman, you do not deny that you said this was an isolated incident. You only say that calling this an isolated incident is simply not true. You are correct referring to the last stabbing as an isolated incident would be a lie. Alderman, if you really believe that this is an isolated incident, as you were quoted by Mr. Perez of NBC as saying, then you are not only out of touch with your constituents, you're out of touch with reality. I'm almost done. It took you nearly 3 weeks after the first stabbing to acknowledge publicly that there may be a problem with crime in Boystown. Alderman, your response is very slow. We need an alderman in this ward who has a strong voice and moves quickly when it residents are involved. As I was sure you know, Alderman, city employees must adhere to a code of conduct. If the office of the Inspector General receives any complaint alleging misconduct, inefficiency, or waste against any member of the City Council, the Inspector General office shall promptly transmit said complaint to the Legislative Inspector General. If lots of citizens make complaints against you, Alderman, for your ineffectiveness, the Inspector General will investigate you and there will be consequences. Also, please remember, we will remember this in 2015. I'm almost done. Commander and Alderman, please stop trying to insist that Boystown is a safe neighborhood. The media is listening now and the attacks speak loud and clear. Boystown is a danger zone. Please do your jobs and make us safe. If you feel you cannot do your jobs effectively, please do the right thing and step down from your position. It seems to me the clear answer is more police on the streets with the concentration of them on foot. It seems clear to me that simple enforcement of the municipal code might help. As a resident of this neighborhood, I will continue to be vigilant and report illegal activity as I see it. Thank you very much.
That they were going to attack the 15-year-old girl. The groups walked to building 35 and surrounded the girl, punching her, ripping her clothes, and dragging her into the street. Angelique came to the girls directly, reaching into the group to pull her off in harm's way and steal her lock person. That is my wife, by the way. She saved the girl's life, and I was beaten in the head 30 times by 30 gang members. The girl's life was saved. Gangbangers got away, the police drove by and didn't do anything about it. So I understand your pain, but I got involved, my wife got involved. We got the girls that were directly involved in the incident, full scholarships to a private school, with money that we did not have. And these girls now graduate at the top of their class. Did I make a difference? Hell yeah, I made a difference. Why? Because I got involved. You can't sit here and wait for the boys in blue to do what the hell you guys can get up and do. kids have been molested. I was one of those kids. I grew up in the state neighborhood. When I grew up here, gays were getting beat up on. My friends were beating up gay people. Now you own the community, and what do? You turn on kids that are in trouble because their parents can't afford to beat them. So the gay Trust me, I was one of those kids. Unless I was saved, I wasn't saved after that part. So all of you need to start making a difference and stop blaming these kids. Seeing that everyone in this room is over the age of 24, if not there's a lower class of minorities in this room or age groups in this room, I feel that everyone in this room, if they're not helping solve the problem, then they're part of the problem period. If you're not stepping out of your box, your comfort zone, your room, and your air conditioning to step outside and see what's going on, see what you can do, then why speak on it? Everybody in this room has to say so in this community. Even though the youth is doing what they're doing, most of them are denouncing their family kids out at a young age that walk the street. It's not your problem, of course it's not, but it is becoming your problem. So we're not making it a problem. If we don't work together, as the United States says, united we stand, divided we fall. We are a community of gay, bisexual, whatever we are. Community, we work together. The youth that you see, that you point the finger out at, is the future. You are the present. You are the past. Join the army. We are. Listen, I was talking with Franklin in front of Aldine and Halston, and a fight broke out, and there was 6-7 police officers at 7-Eleven. Okay, the guy got bashed with a bottle of mace sprayed in the face. Detectives pick him up, slam him against the car, throw him out the car and say, oh yeah, you're the victim, we're the perpetrator. What about the victim? What if it was you? What if all you guys are the victim and you're just going through the side? Look at it from a different point of view. Don't just look at it from a standpoint where you're against the world. We all need to work together to make this community and this world better. Pointing the finger doesn't get you nowhere. Two negatives don't make it positive. Why don't we all be grown up as we are, and instead of blaming the youth, we work with the youth to make a compromise. This is our community. This is everyone's community. Let's share it.
I'm an undergraduate student at the University of Illinois Chicago. I'm studying history. And before I came here today, I stopped at the Jane Addams Hull House, home of Jane Addams, a Nobel Peace Prize winner, who was a labor activist, an immigrant rights activist, and a civil rights activist. And she was also in a same-sex relationship, which we don't talk about. Nobel Peace Prize winner, who we would identify as today as a lesbian. And on the wall at the Jane Addams Hull House, I saw a quote painted on there that stuck out to me. It said, in order to end poverty, in order to end violence, one needs to understand it, needs to research it, needs to study its causes and its effects. What does that mean? Why is the first solution to this problem the policing of our neighborhood rather than putting $50,000 towards homeless shelters, safe schools? Make up 30% of homeless youth in this country, yet they only make 5 to 10% of the overall population. There's a problem there. The dropout rate among LGBT youth is significantly higher than heterosexual youth. Why aren't we putting more funds to ensuring that we have safer schools anti-bullying policies in our schools rather than paying $50,000 to putting more police on the streets to harass youth of color. Why is that? Why aren't we talking about better health care in this country?
We spent $30 million to build the center on Halsted.
Can I talk about this shut it down by? I was a victim of violence when I took out my school. I was the first person to come out in my town of 1,000 people. And what men attacked me. It's a double standard in this country. Until we address it, we call it the justice standard.
What they're saying, and we'll have a discussion if there's time. If you're kind of shouting out for the audience, I'm not going to make this go any faster.
Me keep it easy for 2 minutes if you know me as an easy. My name's Richard Streetman. Lakeview is a diverse community. For me, it's not just diverse, it's a gay neighborhood. It's an LGBT neighborhood. It has a special purpose in this town. And I also say, why do we need that? Well, I came here 13 years ago from South Carolina, and when I was a youth, I started the first Gay Street Alliance in the state of South Carolina, a bunch of groups. But at some point, 4 years later than I should have, I had enough money to go to college, and I made the decision to leave that because I wasn't safe there. And before I ever got here in the 80s, when people and I know some people hate him, some people love him, but as an example, Oliver Tunney came here in the 80s. People built bars like Sidetrack and Roscoe's, early 80s, like 70s. It was a neighborhood. You took a cab, one block. And it was about race then, about class, but it was also about becoming gay. That's history now. It's a different neighborhood now. And the question is, are you going to give up that safety that so many people came here for, including many of the youth, who are some being demonized, but some are also perpetrating some of the violence? And are there systemic causes? Yes. But let me say something. This meeting would not happen in any ward in the city of Chicago. If we were in Bridgeport tonight, or Beverly, nice neighborhoods, nice people, there would have never been 8 years since I first brought this up as a board member of LBCC when it was 20 youth or 10 youth in groups. And I said, this is going to get out of hand. Because I came here as a youth. I went to Horizons. I used to go pull out weeds before we had the $30 million center. I used to be homeless. So, I mean, I have strong opinions, but I'm going to let y'all have those. The most important thing I think I can say here tonight is that those 8 years ago when I talked about it, some people were concerned, but it never went anywhere. And these were meetings with 10 people. And I've been to CAPS meetings. Raise your hand if this is your first CAPS meeting in your life. Raise it. Raise it high. I bet it's more than that. Some of y'all got one problem. Come on to the next CAPS meeting. And yes, you can fight and holler and scream, but at some point let's stop being emotional and actually have some violence. And this self-respect yourself. Because nobody goes to hell. You can say power of gay people. Say power of black kids. Because they are not young. The kids we're talking about, who are being talked about, some of which are innocent. But in my case, I live in Belmont Park. You can be innocent, but there's also just behavior. Sometimes people just need to go have act in this neighborhood. If I'm just there, I gotta get work, nobody else is for it. And that's part of the problem. So I think it's a combination. We're not here just as the police. Are we at 2 minutes? Sorry, I was at 3. I told you I couldn't do it in 2.